Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
So on our Listener's Choice feature today, we're discussing scams and fraud that you should be looking out for this festive season. And of course, scams and fraud are no longer isolated incidents. They've become quite a daily reality for many South Africans. WhatsApp messages often claim to be from banks or police officers. You're dealing with fake job offers as well, investment opportunities that are fake, and tax-related scams. You know, criminals are constantly adopting their tactics and exploiting fear. They exploit urgency and financial pressure. And what makes this even more concerning is that anyone can be targeted, regardless of your age, regardless of your income or level of education. And as this festive season is upon us, tax deadlines and tough economic conditions actually create fertile ground for these scammers. So it's more important than ever right now for you to understand what to look out for and how to protect yourself. And that's where organizations like the Southern African Fraud Prevention Service plays a critical role, not only in helping to prevent fraud and identity theft, but also in educating consumers and sounding the alarm on emerging scam trends. How do you guard yourself against fraud and scams, especially during this part of the year? Please share your tips with us on 011-883-0702. And maybe you, unfortunately, have been one of those that have been scammed during this period. How did it happen for you? And what advice do you have for other people so that others can be aware of those scams? You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. Have you been a victim of a scam or fraud, and how did you deal with it? Manie van Schalkwyk is with the Southern African Fraud Prevention Services, the CEO there at the Southern African Fraud Prevention Services. Manie, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and thank you for inviting me to your show.
Yeah, maybe let's start with just a brief explanation of what Southern African Fraud Prevention Services mission is, and how does it help South Africans protect themselves from these scams and fraud?
Okay, well, the SAFPS, as we know it, has been established about 25 years ago as a not-for-profit organization by the banks and the retailers. And it's an organization where the banks and retailers list fraudsters that are trying to defraud the bank. So if somebody is, stealing somebody else's identity book, or they are changing their bank statements or their pay slips or something like that to get a loan, that's when they will find themselves listed on this database. But soon after that, two other very important functions started, where we realized that people lose their handbag, and the fraudsters then open accounts in their name on their ID book, because their ID book was in the handbag, and so we started a victim of identity theft listings, and then we also provided an additional layer of protection for consumers by providing protective registration. And those two last services are free of charge to the consumers. And about 5 years ago, we started an organization called HIMA, Y-I-M-A, HIMA, which just takes it slow, take it slower. And that is specifically to do with scams, because we see scams a little bit different from fraud. And scams are where I usually say it's the art of convincing people. So it's the art of convincing you you and I, that the person on the other end of the line, he says he's from the bank, but he's actually a fraudster, and he wants you to divulge your information to him. So it's the art of convincing you. So that is what we see as scams. And those, hima.org.za is a website that helps consumers as a scam management tool, where you can see the latest trends. You'll be able to register scams if you've been scammed. You can see what are the new trends, and it provides you with free tools to download. If you are standing on a
Let's talk about those new trends. How has the landscape of fraud and identity theft in South Africa evolved over the past few years? What are some of the common ways people actually experience that level of fraud?
Yeah. Well, let's talk to fraud first, and then we'll look at scams. Fraud top categories is fraudulent documents, where individuals change their ID or they steal somebody else's identity. We're trying to make changes to the identity by removing a photograph. And the other one, which I think is more important, is we're seeing a significant increase in money mules. So what is a money mule, people could ask? And that is if you let somebody else use your bank account. So the syndicates will usually target you because they realize there's a lot of technology out there to authenticate people. They will target you and they will pay you to make use of your bank account. And that seems to is growing exponentially. But money there is used for terrorism. We see human trafficking. A lot of research was done globally on money mules, and that is what the money is used for. So those two, I think, is the top categories as fraudulent documents and money mules. If we speak to scams, I think the top of the list is what we call vishing, but not to get worried about the terms, but that is where people phone you to say they're phoning from the bank and there's fraud on your account, and that you need to urgently provide them with your banking details so that they can stop the fraud going forward. Or they will send you a link. Most importantly, that's what the major modus operandi is. They'll send you a link to stop the fraud or to move the money into a new bank account so it's safe. And if you push that link, you will authorize actually the money to move into their bank account. So that is what the top scam we're seeing currently is the vishing scam, where people trying to convince you that they are phoning from the bank.
I see. And so these are some of the particular scams. Are there others that are more sophisticated, though, recently that you're picking up?
I think they're all sophisticated in the sense that they really they getting under your skin. The bigger scams we see beside the one I'm just talking about is investment scams, for instance, where people promise a good return on investment. They show you fake reports. They show you fake newspaper clips, and you believe this, and so you start investing in this. And then I think the most unreported scam, but the most where people lose the most money is in terms of romance scams. And we see that usually now where people start feeling lonely, if people don't have family, they trust people, they feel that they need to, help individuals who's not maybe in a good position. And this fraudsters then convince them that, they love these individuals and they need money to take the child to a hospital, that kind of stuff. So we really see those 3 or 4 scams as the top end, what consumers need to be careful of.
Okay. And then any specific red flags for tax-related or SARS impersonation scams?
Yes, of course. Yeah. We see that more or less over the tax season, where you usually get a notification on WhatsApp and email to say that this is a refund due to you, and you need to click on it and provide your information. The moment you provide that information, your bank account will be emptied in the process.
Yeah, I see. 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. How do you guard against scams or fraud? Have you been a victim of a scam or fraud? How have you dealt with it? Give us a call or please send a WhatsApp voice note. And Manie, I wonder what advice you have for people that have perhaps they're realizing that or they suspect that they're being targeted by a scam, or they've just been scammed. What's the immediate thing that they should do?
Well, we've launched a wonderful campaign called Just Say Goodbye. And that is really, it is what it says it is. The moment you hear the triggers where people are saying, I'm phoning from a bank and I'm here to help you, and usually very pleasant. And they say there's fraud in your account, and we will assist you in stopping it. So there's a bit of fear, and you need to act now. So there's urgency. And then you need to provide information. And if you don't, they get very aggressive. So those are the kind of emotional levels that they play with you. If you get any of the calls, I would say if you receive any phone call from your bank claiming that they're from the bank, just say goodbye. Just put the phone down. Just put the phone down. Phone your bank on the number that you have. Look at the back of your bank card. There's a number there. Or Google your bank's information and get the number. Don't rely on information that the fraudster will give you. But phone the number that you have and phone and find out from the bank if there's anything going onto your account. 99.9%, nothing. Nothing is going on. So my first suggestion is if you get a phone call from a bank or from a cell phone company that says, we hear somebody is trying to SIM swap your phone and we need you to help with this, well, just put on the phone. Just say goodbye and put on the phone and phone your supplier, phone the bank, phone the cell phone company and find out what is going on. So that is my advice, 100% on that. On the fraud side, I would say go to our website on safps.org.za and follow the process there to get a layer of protection on your identity. So that when you apply for credit, that the credit process is stopped. And in that stopping is the security. That they will ask you for another, maybe the SAFPS letter, or they'll ask you for another identity document or a proof of address or something. But something that the fraudster will not be able to provide to them. So get that protective registration on your name. It's free of charge. It does delay the process, the credit granting process, but it's really to your benefit.
And what about specific victims? Are there specific groups, like whether it's the elderly or the small business owners, students that you've seen are being targeted more frequently?
We see definitely an elderly targeting, especially when it comes to banking issues. I think, the elderly, and I'm speaking to myself being 50 plus, is that people is from a different generation. They may be not as digital savvy as the youngsters are, and they really they prefer if people phone them and speak to them from the bank. But that is what the fraudsters are counting on. So the moment they speak to you or phone you, people of that older generation really trust these individuals, and that is a big problem. So do not trust them. Put down the phone. Just say goodbye.
Yeah. There's some WhatsApps coming through. Let's start here.
Hi, Clement Manyathela from Pretoria. I have been using Truecaller, and I know that there's some disadvantage with Truecaller in terms of how it gets a hold of some of your personal information, but it has really helped me in terms of being able to identify when an SMS or a call is spam related or a possible scam, and that has kind of helped me kind of evade certain phishing sort of traps, especially one that was the post office one. I remember that for a while it was going around that, you forgot your package just at the post office, pay this money, and then, your package will be released. So that's what I use. And I just mainly ignore a lot of emails that have clicks in them unless it looks like it's from an official bank. And then with SARS, I'll go onto my profile on the website as opposed to clicking on any emails or SMSs. So yeah, that's what I do. Hi, Clement Manyathela.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning, Clement. There is this scam nowadays. Someone just called me last week, and then he said to me, there's someone who's trying to purchase one voucher on my account. So the lady said, for me to prevent that person, I must switch off my phone, and then I must restart my phone, and then open it later, and then and then after 1 minute I said, no, this might be a scam, and then I said, no, I can't do that. So I dropped the phone, and then after that I've called the bank. The bank only verified that was a scam. So it's Donald J. I'm in Tembisa.
Hectic. Mike, you're calling us from Pretoria. Hi.
Yes, Clement. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Sharp, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, Clement, the problem with these scams, these guys are very, very sharp. They understand, they know what is going on. I lost almost 100,000 rand, where somebody called me saying that he's from the bank, and the next thing, somebody is trying to buy something from one of the hard stores, and then we need to stop him. The next thing is that company, in fact, the person is actually doing this thing from somewhere in the Western Cape. And the thing is, a week or so back, I was there at the Western Cape. So it became very, very convincing that, somebody is trying to do something with my, my account. Now, the thing is, what are the banks doing about this? Shouldn't the bank, for instance, give me an option as one of their clients that if there's money that needs to move from my account to another bank, I must make that option of saying it must only reflect after 2 days. Why should it be, for instance, when I transfer now and it goes out immediately? I should have, that would be an inconvenience on me, on my part, but it's something that I think it would be much better if, to secure my monies. Because if I say this option, when I transfer, it must only show after 2 days or so. That's an option that I must take. And anybody else who doesn't want that option can actually continue with the status quo. But the banks are not doing much to assist us in this regard.
Yeah, let me ask Manie to respond to that, Mike, because that is an issue that's been raised several times. What is the role of banks here? And also, some of these people who are scamming people have got these legitimate business accounts with the banks. Yeah. So you end up paying money into this account, but it's an account with a legitimate bank. What checks and balances are there happening on the side of the banks? Yeah, Manie?
Yes, I think you guys, yourself, Clement and Mike, are asking very relevant questions. Especially where Mike is saying that he doesn't want a transfer to happen immediately. He wants a delay on it so that there's time for him to do something about it. And I agree. I do think, and you mentioning that these bank accounts are with legitimate banks and they may be fraudulent accounts. I think they're all very relevant questions. I know that the Reserve Bank is busy with various projects on various ways to see how to curb the scams in South Africa, and I'm sure these points are in the process of being discussed and to see how to make it more difficult for scammers to scam people in South Africa. But I think it's all very legitimate questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we must demand more from our banks as well. Let's go to some more WhatsApps coming on 0727021702.
This example of being scammed, as someone is buying from the Western Cape, happened to me exactly like that. And the previous week I had actually been scammed. And sometimes I think they just target, I don't know how, but they targeted me. And then the guy was trying to help me. And as I was listening to him, then he gave me my email address. And when he gave me a wrong email address, that's where I said to him, listen, I have to take another call. The aggression, Clement, from the guy, because he just would not let off the phone. And I tried to say no, he was so aggressive. Eventually, I hung up, I called my bank. It was a scam. Collecting Johannesburg.
Yeah. Can you please repeat for us, Manie, the YIMA scam prevention toolbox? Someone else is asking, how they can use it to protect themselves and report fraud. Can you just explain how it works again so that our listeners can take advantage of that to protect themselves?
Totally. You go to yima.org.za and you will see the toolbox there. You can click on the specific products you have or you want. So you can download an extension onto your laptop or your cell phone that if you are on a fraudulent email website, that it warns you to say this website is questionable, get off. It provides you with, if you would just need a tool to once off verify a website, it rates the websites for you to say this one looks suspicious or this one is fine. So there are various free of charge products that you can use to help yourself. I just want to get back then, and sorry, to the previous calls. She said the scammer provided some information to her and she realized when the information was wrong that this was a scammer. I think that is a very important point, and because especially people sometimes provide the correct information and they get that information from the data bridges that we see in the country. So when people provide you with information like an email address which is correct maybe, or a telephone number which is correct, or a suburb where you live, that is what they stole in a data bridge. And they are very quick to do that, so to try to give you satisfaction that they are from the bank, as they would provide you with some details. But they don't have all the information, and that is the problem. So people kind of gain trust in the individual because they give you the correct email address, or they provide you with the last 4 digits of your credit card, or your ID, that kind of information. So because they stole some of that information, I think it's very legitimate to say, even if they provide you with some of the information and that information is correct, just say goodbye. Don't trust them.
Hi, Clement and the team. My question to your guest is, what recourse do we have as consumers in a situation where scammers hack the institution like a bank and later utilize the information which they hacked from the bank to scam its consumers? David.
Yeah, Manie?
Yeah. I'm not sure. That should be maybe going to the regulator, the information regulator, on the, what kind of penalties there are. But I think if you as an individual click on links or provide information, and that information is then used to clear your bank account, you've got very little recourse because you kind of enabled that whole process.
Yeah. Manie, thank you so much for all the tips that you've managed to share with us. I really appreciate it. Manie van Schalkwyk is the CEO at the Southern African Fraud Prevention Services.